The cedar waxwing has silky smooth plumage of brown, gray, and lemon yellow, a slight crest, a black mask, and brilliant red wax droplets on the wing feathers. They also have yellow tips on their tail feathers that look almost as if they dipped them in yellow paint. Hundreds of waxwings will gather in the fall to eat berries, making high, shrill whistles. In summer, they spend time flitting over the rivers, hunting for flying insects, being quite aerobatic for a forest bird. Often you may hear their high-pitched call notes before seeing them. They usually form big flocks that grow, shrink, divide, and rejoin. Waxwings start to court in winter and during migration. First, two birds hop toward each other on a branch. Sometimes their bills touch. This is called courtship hopping. The male will offer a berry or petal or insect. If she likes him, the female will hop toward him, and an item will pass back and forth between them until the female finally eats it. If she doesn't like him, she will ignore him. The name waxwing comes from the waxy red secretions found on the tips of the wings. The females seem to prefer the older mates because they have more experience in dangerous situations and are therefore more likely to survive. The red waxy feather tips show their age. The more they have, the older they tend to be. The older birds with more red tips pair off first, and then the younger ones pair off with younger mates. Waxwings start nesting later than most birds because they want to wait until the fruit ripens. Brown-headed cowbirds generally lay their eggs earlier, but if one is laid in a waxwing nest, they typically don't survive, partly because the cowbird chicks need more protein in their diet. Cedar waxwings are very social birds and can be found in large flocks. They even nest close to other waxwings in groups of a dozen or so nests. The young usually fledge when they are 15 to 16 days old. The male usually feeds them for 6 to 10 days, at which time they can feed themselves, often joining small flocks of other juveniles. Sometimes you may see cedar waxwings with orange instead of yellow tail feathers. This started happening in the 1960s because a new type of honeysuckle was introduced with a red pigment in the berries. When young waxwings eat enough of the berries while the tail feather is growing, the tip of the feather will turn orange. There are only a few North American birds that can have a diet of mostly fruit. The cedar waxwing is one that can survive on fruit alone for several months. Most birds that eat a lot of fruit don't eat the seeds, but the cedar waxwing does. Because of this, scientists can tell how fast waxwings can digest fruits. When feeding on fruits, cedar waxwings generally pluck them one at a time and swallow them whole. They usually perch on a twig to eat, but they also hover just below a bunch and pick them from there. Cedar waxwings can occasionally become intoxicated or even die if they eat overripe berries that have started to ferment and produce alcohol. In summer, they feed on fruits such as serviceberry, strawberry, mulberry, dogwood, and raspberries. They add insects including mayflies, dragonflies, and stoneflies, which they catch by flying out from a branch and making zigzag flights over water. They also can pick items from the vegetation such as scale insects, spruce budworm, and leaf beetles. Cedar waxwings live in deciduous, coniferous, and mixed woodlands, especially along streams. They also frequent fields, grasslands, sagebrush, and desert washes. With many people adding ornamental berry trees around their homes, cedar waxwings are becoming quite common in towns and suburbs. In winter, cedar waxwings are often found in flocks around any plants with fruit. At this time of year, they like to eat cedar berries, and hence their name. They also eat mistletoe, madrone, juniper, mountain wash, honeysuckle, crabapple, hawthorn, and Russian olive fruit.